Wherever you like. Yeah, don't get covered by the. Let's step out from that.
It's hard to cover.
All right, if we're ready to go. Good morning. Good morning, and thank you for being here. Today, I'm Sean Noble, Illinois State Director with ReadyNation Illinois. We're a national, nonprofit, nonpartisan network of business leaders. We number about 1,100 members nationwide, including 110 here in Illinois. And they range from bank executives and hospital CEOs to manufacturers, small business owners, and local Chamber of Commerce presidents. Two things draw our members together as ReadyNation. First, we share a commitment to strengthening the quality of our workforce, our business climate, and our economy. And secondly, we pursue those goals by focusing greater attention on something that extensive studies show to be particularly effective, and that's improving the learning and the development of children to help them become more career and or college ready. ReadyNation doesn't run any schools or services of our own. We don't take any government funding. What we do is draw on the experience that our members, our business leader members, have gained in their own 9-to-5 work as business executives, including hiring and managing. And we combine that with what we find in good research to inform our opinions. Now, in compiling the new ReadyNation report that we're releasing today, we've turned to such sources as Georgetown University research, American Management Association surveys, and Illinois Department of Employment Security statistics. Our report is entitled Ensuring Illinois' Global Success, Shrinking Our Skills Gap Through Wise Investments in Children's Learning and Development. One of the trickiest parts was just putting that all on the cover, all those words. But what we find in our research is this. Current education and labor market trends indicate the Illinois workforce faces an increasingly serious skills gap. That's the gap between two important numbers, job postings and the workers who are skilled enough to fill those positions. In fact, we're moving through a decade in which Illinois will see more than 150,000 job openings for which there will be no qualified candidates. That's on average 15,000 positions a year, and that mismatch disrupts our business teams, it blunts our edge in an increasingly competitive global marketplace, and it demands that we step up efforts to improve the quality of our workforce. Now, my ReadyNation colleagues here will detail the skills gap a little further and discuss some of the solutions we can pursue over the long haul. Many of these recommendations center on kids' vital first years of life and learning, which business leaders across the country increasingly see as crucial to bolstering our workforce and our economy. In fact, when Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen last October detailed what she called the cornerstones of opportunity to focus on in America, she specifically focused on the importance of early learning and other resources that are available to children in their most formative years. So I'm going to turn in order to my colleagues Kayla Edwards from Express Employment Professionals in Springfield, Bloomington, and Jacksonville, then Rudy Valdez, who is with Southwest Ideas for Today and Tomorrow in Rockford, and Kevin Weinock from Weinock & Associates in Collinsville. Kayla?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here this morning. Again, my name is Kayla Edwards, and I'm with Express Employment Professionals, as Sean said. I lead a team of 3 offices in Springfield, Bloomington, and most recently Jacksonville. And together, we help great companies find great workers. And by doing that, we also help great people find great companies. Sounds simple, doesn't it? It's not, and it's only getting harder. Companies engage us to help them build a high-performance workforce, and that takes the right people doing the right things. The very reason I was asked to be here this morning is to share my real-life experiences. See, Express serves over 500 businesses throughout central Illinois and employs over 1,500 people annually. These people are in jobs such as machine operators, welders, bookkeepers, tellers, accountants, web developers. And yes, those are the kinds of jobs which we are seeing the current supply reducing. I wake up every morning focused on this very subject we're talking about today, matching jobs with workers. It's frustrating when someone really wants to work but isn't qualified to take a promising job opening. It's equally frustrating for employers who can't find well-skilled workers to fill jobs and often have to settle for hiring less qualified employees. And that costs businesses in terms of time and money spent on turnover, retraining, down production lines, overtime, and opportunity cost. The sad fact is, our workforce supply simply doesn't line up with the many employers' demands, a problem that should concern anyone who cares about business productivity and the health of our state's economy. Recently, I met with one of those companies. They manufacture and produce food products in one of our northern counties. An opportunity came their way that required 30 additional machine operators. Sadly, they had to decline the business because there just weren't enough skilled workers. Someone secured that business opportunity, and it wasn't my client. Unfortunately, that business wasn't in the state of Illinois. It went outside of state lines. Repeatedly, companies tell me, Kayla, we can secure the generally skilled, but to survive and thrive, our future depends on employing people who can grow beyond our entry-level positions. Jobs like filing, boxing, packing, and basic assembly, companies are secure with those folks, but there are only so many of those slots. For the viability of those companies, they need people that can grow beyond those basic skilled positions. Today, Illinois is midway through a decade, 2010 to 2020, in which 2.3 million total jobs are opening as the result of job creation, retirements, and career changes. More than 1.58 million of these openings, about 69%, will require some level of post-secondary education. However, only 62% of Illinoisans will have an education beyond simply a high school diploma. The 7-point difference between 69 and 62 between those figures is the skills gap, which is why we're here this morning, translating to the conservative estimate of more than 150,000 positions that Sean mentioned. Proportionally, our gap is wider than the national average, as well as the gap seen in such neighboring states as Wisconsin, Iowa, and Missouri. And it's growing over time. This reminds me of a story of a company founded right here in Springfield, Illinois. They're a highly successful telecommunications company that's continued to diversify and reinvent themselves. Eventually, their core operations moved to Houston. Last year, their accounting and finance team followed. Why? I'm sure there are many reasons, but one that makes someone in my business just cringe. They believe there was a broader talent pool to draw from in Texas. This was 10 jobs, and in the big scheme of things, that's a small number. And unfortunately, and I wish I didn't have to say this, but I can share story after story after story, and pretty soon a few adds up to a staggering number. Today, 1 of 6 Illinois freshmen still fails to graduate from high school on time. And while virtually all Illinois public school juniors take the ACT exam last year, fewer than half achieved a college-ready composite score. These problems begin to appear well before the high school level. By the time Illinois students reach 8th grade, proficiency levels are as low as 36% in reading and math, and only 26% in science. Clearly, we need to get upstream of these problems to improve learning opportunities for children long before they get to this age in life and stage of life, when problems become much more difficult and costly to correct. At Express, I'm having the privilege to work with a non-for-profit organization that supports mothers who currently have found themselves without a support system, and they found themselves, they're homeless. And this organization helps these mothers return to self-sufficiency. They've engaged our company to help provide training to those with the basic core skills. And unfortunately, not all of these moms are in that position. Although we can help individuals learn to have basic computer skills, do basic teller skills, basic customer service skills, if a mom doesn't know how to read and write and do basic math, they're really beyond my ability to help them. Thank you for your time, and I want to introduce Dr. Rudy Valdez.
Good morning. My name is Rudy Valdez. I'm Vice President of SWIFT. That's with 2 T's. It stands for Southwest Ideas for Today and Tomorrow. We're a nonprofit economic and community development organization working to attract businesses to Rockford's Southwest Quadrant. I've also spent nearly 3 decades in the aerospace industry, specifically United Technologies, working on programs such as the Space Shuttle, International Space Station, and most recently the 787 Dreamliner aircraft. In those years, I've gathered firsthand experiences on the benefits of education through the candidates seeking employment, whether it's in businesses covered by SWIFT, which is an underrepresented area in Rockford, to the candidates seeking careers at United Technologies. There seems to be a big difference when you look at it from the SWIFT side to United Technologies. You know, one is more successful than others at tracking the candidates, qualified candidates. And the biggest difference is really educational attainment. Our shortfalls in educational attainment carry some awfully heavy costs for workers, employers, and our entire economy. For one thing, the unemployment rate averages 10% for Illinois workers who have only a high school education. That's double the rate for those with a bachelor's degree. For our household income levels, we see earnings increasingly we see earnings much higher at better educated workers. Those with associate degrees earn an average of $7,500 more per year than those with only a high school diploma, and $16,000 more than those that are high school dropouts. These differences grow much bigger if you look at workers with 4 years degrees and graduate degrees. The cost of low educational attainment exceeds far beyond unemployment levels and household earnings. They add up on many levels of for individuals and society alike. For example, half of all the students entering public 2-year colleges in Illinois require remedial courses and training. That's an enormous financial drag in our state, costing $86 million annually. Now, we don't mean to say that everybody needs to go to college. That's not the point. That's not what we're saying. But we certainly should be in the position to help all young Illinoisans obtain the education level they want and the careers that they intend to get. At the very least, we should aim to ensure that all students can graduate high school reasonably prepared for work and careers, as well as for whatever post-secondary education or training they seek. Okay. Consider this. Helping even 1,000 more dropouts to graduate high school each year would reap significant rewards for those students and for society. In our ReadyNation report, we lay out some of those results, including the fact that these 1,000 hypothetical workers will collectively earn, or would collectively earn $11 million more in an average year and boost the Illinois gross state product by $16 million. These are just few of the snapshots of the added economic strength that Illinois, its families, and its workforce forego when young people fail to attain the higher levels of education to which so many of them aspire. We should start early to help kids avoid falling through the cracks and into the skills gap between the available jobs and the necessary skills. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for coming today. I'm Kevin Weinock, president of Weinock & Associates out of Collinsville, Illinois, and we are a manufacturer rep company. This is our 35th year in business. We sell machine tool accessories and products that are involving manufacturing, and we have a 9-state area we cover, so I'm quite familiar with the whole Midwest as far as business is concerned. Anyway, we provide support to manufacturers of high-quality industrial products, and so my work has me interacting with employers both inside and outside of Illinois, giving me a good perspective on the importance of maintaining a sharp competitive edge. Any employer will tell you our workforce skill deficiencies go beyond the technical qualifications that are specific to the individual occupations and positions. Also important are the so-called soft skills that are vital to good job performance. Skills such as creative thinking and the abilities to communicate clearly and collaborate well in teams. And even simply knowing that you should show up for work every day on time, ready to work. 9 out of 10 executives surveyed by the American Management Association said such skills are important to expanding business. 3/4 of them say these qualifications are increasingly important, yet fewer than half rated their employees as above average in any of these skills. These are some of the reasons business leaders strongly support greater investments in high-quality early learning programs. Research shows that the vast majority of brain development takes place in the first 5 years of a child's life. Establishing a neuro infrastructure that's critical to a lifetime of learning and success in schools, careers, and beyond. The early years are when we stand the best chance of helping kids get a solid grounding in all those important soft skills. And our new report cites a number of landmark studies that further support the business and economic case for early childhood investments. For example, several studies have indicated that high-quality early learning experiences help children become more likely to do well in school, avoid behavioral problems, and graduate from high school. They're more likely to grow up healthy and avoid criminal trouble. And kids are more likely to obtain a college degree and become consistently employed, according to a longitudinal study. One well-respected cost-benefit analysis examined more than 20 different studies of pre-kindergarten programs and found this. On average, high-quality preschool can return a profit to society of more than $26,000 for every child. In this case, profit simply means economic benefits minus cost. Simply put, research shows investments in kids' learning and development are key to stabilizing jobs today and strengthening the workforce of tomorrow. Such investments represent one of the greatest returns on investments we can make and measure, and they are more cost-effective than later efforts towards this program. Now, what I'd like to at least share a little story relating to myself, and that is about 15 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to a convention in our industry, and everybody was very excited because Colin Powell was going to be the speaker. And if anybody's had a chance to hear him speak, you'll know what I'm talking about because he just did a tremendous job. But we had no idea what he was going to talk about. We thought it was going to be something to do with industrial products that we sell, and that it wasn't that at all. It was about early childhood learning. And nobody really understood what he was talking about till we got done. And one of the things that he did say, I remember, is you need to get these kids before 5 years old. You get them early. Early childhood learning is the critical thing because when they're 16, their minds are made up, and it's very difficult to get them in the right direction. So he just really impressed on everybody in that room, and I remember he put a personal challenge out to everyone, and he said, please, every businessman in here and woman, please get involved some way, somehow. So when I heard about ReadyNation and hearing what everything was all about, it was very exciting for me, so I could contribute towards that too. So just wanted to share that information with you. Thank you.
Thanks to Kevin and to Rudy and to Kayla for their comments, and we're going to draw this to a close by just talking about a few of the policy priorities that are laid out in your report that you'll find. We certainly lay out a few things such as career and technical education, STEM learning, science, technology, engineering, and math, innovative high school models. These are all very important priorities that we believe we ought to be investing in further. And building on what Kevin was saying about the importance of early childhood education and what the research shows there, we want to focus especially on a couple priorities there. First, we want to applaud the governor's FY16 budget proposal to increase state support for preschool and for critical birth to 3 programs that are funded through the Illinois State Board of Education's Early Childhood Block Grant. In fact, we urge state leaders to go even a step further and to double that recommended increase to $50 million. That level of an increase would help us to get back on track toward Illinois' statutory goal of extending high-quality early learning services to thousands more young children whose parents want them, always prioritizing at-risk children first. We've lost a lot of ground in recent years as budget cuts have totaled $80 million in preschool and birth to 3 services, and that in turn has closed preschool classrooms for more than 20,000 children statewide over the last few years. The level of increase we propose also matches the increase requested originally by the Illinois State Board of Education, and it would help us to begin to make up some of that lost ground that I talked about. It would ensure our state captures significant new federal funding for early learning programs that could focus even more intensive help on the at-risk kids who need it the most. And on the other hand, we're concerned about a proposed FY16 cut of $177 million in state child care assistance for low-income working families. That proposal envisions doing such things as hiking families' co-pay fees for services, freezing program intake for kids age 6 and older, and these kinds of things would be harmful on several levels. High-quality child care can be every bit as educational as preschool when we improve the quality, when we're paying attention to quality. And Illinois has several quality-boosting measures in place to do just that. Families need more early learning options, not fewer. Plus, child care stability reinforces workforce stability and productivity. In fact, one study has shown the loss of reliable child care options leads workers to take an average of 5 to 9 days off of work annually. And that in turn costs American employers more than $3 billion a year in lost productivity, rehiring, and retraining. We can't afford to add to those business struggles here in Illinois. ReadyNation similarly supports these other important investments that I'd mentioned at the more elementary, secondary education levels, such as career and tech ed. We felt it particularly important to focus on these things today that are right now being talked about in budget discussions under this dome and elsewhere. And we want to point out that research in our business leader experience strongly supports all these connections we've discussed. We ignore them at a significant cost to our business competition and to our economy, and that would allow the skills gap to grow ever wider, and we can't afford to do that. So I'd like to close there, entertain any questions you might have, while also pointing out that in addition to your report, you have a fact sheet that draws comparisons with surrounding states' skills gap figures, and on the flip side of that, it does help direct you to where you might find some more local ACT figures on the subject of college readiness that Kayla had mentioned to help localize the stories a little bit. So if there are any questions, we'd help you as best we can.
You guys had mentioned that there just aren't enough skilled workers, but it kind of goes in cycles, because I actually know personally some unemployed skilled laborers, and when these classes happen that are teaching these skills, they churn out 40, 50 skilled laborers, and then the market's flooded, and these people can't get jobs. I know a good number of unemployed skilled laborers. And so my question is this. Is it the responsibility of state subsidies to help pay for this education, or are businesses willing to go, this is the number of people we need, we're willing to pay for these people to get that education?
Well, I can provide part of an answer, and perhaps one or two of my colleagues would like to join. I would say, really, overall, it's everyone's responsibility. I mean, we're all affected by the economy. And the economy, I think we all could agree, is not near as good as it should be in Illinois, and it hasn't been for a while. So it's really, it's all of our part at the state level, at the local level, at the corporate level, to try to pitch in and do what we can. We're really grateful that both some of our ReadyNation members themselves and some of the businesses that we know are involved locally in such things as career and tech education and STEM career pathways efforts. So businesses are doing their part in that regard. And we need the state and the federal government and local governments to do their part as well. And that's why we care about state investments and federal investments like we're talking about today.
Yeah, I agree with Sean. It's really both. But let me focus more on the business end of things. In Rockford, the corporate world's been working with the public school systems. Rockford, RPS 205, the Rockford Public School System, District 205. It's the third largest in Illinois, and they've just formed academies. In the forming of the academies, we're different. Not just our company, but other companies are opening up internships to get have people have real world experience and have them really get money where they can afford going to college. They're also doing, like they did in Peoria and Kalamazoo and other places, the Rockford Promise. It's a program to be able to help pay for a 2-year education for those students. But it really is a combination of both. But the business world, you know, if we don't have skilled workforce, we have to go where there is skilled workforce. So I'd rather have, you know, growing our own, because there's a lot of very, very intelligent people in our community that for whatever reason, different circumstances, they're not able to get the skills, the education that required. There's obviously the exceptions that go through all these horrific, you know, upbringing, yet they still make it, they're still successful. But those are the exceptions. Usually when you know, the society, when you put too many obstacles in front of them, it gets to be too much of a challenge, and then they end up supporting their family in lower jobs, even though they have the capability of building the space shuttle, as an example, and doing other things like that. So I think it's both, but a lot of the communities, or a lot of corporate businesses are doing their share. I think we all need to do more still.
And just one more question. Do you think a lot of the lack of having skilled labor has a lot to do with, I guess, kind of poor advertising of it? And what I mean by that isn't necessarily like commercials to go be a skilled laborer, but I remember when I was going through high school, I was essentially told, you know, if you want a future, you're going to go to college and you're going to get a 4-year bachelor's degree, or you're going to go to the Army or something like that. Skilled labor wasn't even mentioned really as a viable option. So do you think it's an inherent problem in how people perceive it?
I just kind of circle back to part of an answer from before. I think that's the beauty of a few of the things that are in our report that have to do with career and tech ed efforts and the STEM career pathways programs, where I think there's increasingly attention being given to promising career paths and opportunities and the skills that are necessary to get those careers and to get whatever kinds of training after high school might be necessary for those jobs, whether it be voc ed or other post-secondary training or college itself. There's a lot of attention being given right now to make sure that kids are exposed to that knowledge before they get to hiring age, so that they know they kind of need to get on track for things like Rudy was talking about in Rockford, where the academies are doing a great job of giving kids exposure to knowledge about what the real working world is about and what they need to be thinking about, you know, even at the ages of 15, 16, 17, before they get out there into the working world.
Can I add? Sure. Yeah, again, on the academies, you're absolutely right. We every year we have an academy exposition to show the students what different jobs, what different opportunities there are, different careers. And when we go and volunteer, myself and many others, we're amazed at a lot of the careers we never even thought were careers. You know, and to your point. And it is pretty amazing. So we learn a lot, you know, both the students and the businesses learn a lot of things that are out there that we didn't know. I mean, we still don't know as adults. We try to start it off at middle school to try to, well, it actually starts even earlier, where we go to the children and we read to them, we show them different things. We have career fairs right at the schools when they're pretty young. And a quick story, they asked me, one of the parents that works in the boiler room at United Technologies asked if I could go and do a career fair and talk about, you know, rockets and things like that. And I said, sure. And I said, are you going to come along with me and you're going to be doing your end? And he says, well, no, I just work in the boiler room, you know. And I said, well, you're actually an engineer working in a boiler room. It's high tech. In fact, if you don't do what you do, we can't do what we do. You know, and sometimes people forget that because you get locked into different silos on thinking. That's why getting with the kids early and saying, hey, there's all these opportunities, even in the health care industry. A lot of people think that it's just, well, it's a doctor or nurse. It's like, no, there's radiologists. There's so many different paths. And that's what we need to do, is continue to educate not only the students but the parents, because they'll help guide them.
And I'd add one more thing on that count too, is that the soft skills that Kevin had talked about are so important, because like Reedy was saying, we're in danger if we bifurcate these ages, that we only care about or only should be worried about teaching kids about career paths and skills that they'll need and so forth at a certain age level. Then we're kind of doing kids in our workforce a disservice. We need to match those efforts up with the things that we're doing at the early levels as well, where we're ensuring that kids, even by the time they get to kindergarten age, they have some of those soft skills already developing better than they would otherwise. That they, creativity, communication, collaboration, things like knowing how to line up and to be able to work in teams and so forth starts really early on, and that's crucially important to the workforce, as all of our employer members of Ready Nation could say. Do you want to add something?
Briefly. Today, the product life cycles are smaller than they've ever been before, which means the constant change of technology and new skills needed, it's difficult for the businesses to keep up with. It's difficult for the educators to keep up with. So businesses and educational organizations communicating with one another is as imperative today as it's ever been. Businesses need to keep educators up to speed on what kids need to learn. Second point is, I believe every student graduating high school needs to continue furthering his or her education. It's imperative today. But not every student should go to the traditional four-year college. We've mentioned the vocational schools over and over again, and yes, I do think we probably are weak at promoting and advertising skilled labor jobs where individuals can make a very sound living. But so many of the students are geared and set up, you need to go to a four-year degree school, and many, that's just not where their gifts are. So yes, and to answer your earlier question.
As I mentioned, we sell products to companies in manufacturing. And manufacturing in the U.S. is a little different today than it was years back. And we're competing worldwide now, and so many of the other countries seem to be a little bit more advanced. And so it's one of the problems is it's the workers that are coming into this industry. There's not a lot of the skilled workers coming in at a young age. And the products, for instance, the machinery is CNC, which is computer and numerical controlled, and a lot of them just don't have the skills. So many businesses now in certain areas are teaming up with their Voltex and their different ways to get these guys trained to come out. And so there's a big a teamwork effort going on with many of the manufacturing companies and some of the local Voltex. So I'm glad to see that happening. I'm seeing more now of that today than I did years back.
So you guys mentioned these jobs that are going unfilled because we don't have a skilled workforce. What specific industries are these jobs in? You guys have mentioned a lot. I mean, is it all of these industries, or are we seeing a particularly high concentration of missing workers in one industry?
It's really spread across quite a few. I mean, one in particular that we would note, but it's by no means the only one, healthcare. The healthcare industry is really growing here in Illinois as well as, across the country. And I think the statistics are that in this decade period that we're talking about in our report, 2010 to 2020, in Illinois, the growth of healthcare industry jobs is going to be 32% overall, compared with only 17% of all jobs. So you can see how much more it's growing in healthcare, but 37% of healthcare jobs, only 37% are going to be available to those with a high school education only, which underscores the point that we're making of whether it be voc ed, whether it be an associate's degree or a four-year degree, we need to be able to help kids to first graduate high school and then be able to take advantage of whatever kinds of opportunities educationally they want and need after that to get to the jobs of the future.
So, you mentioned these 150,000 jobs. Is that going to translate to job loss somehow, or is that just going to be unfilled jobs that are just sitting around? Or?
A lot of the jobs that are being filled, they're not being filled with qualified people. And so employers wind up having to, in many cases, fill these jobs with folks that aren't necessarily all the way up to snuff. And then employers incur further costs in training, for example. And so their bottom line is hurt on a couple of different levels. So we don't mean to imply it's 150,000 positions remaining open for the whole decade so much as that's kind of the mix. Some will go unfilled entirely. A lot of them will be filled with people that aren't entirely skilled for the positions.
So what kind of costs can business expect? You mentioned it's going to cost businesses money if they have unqualified workers in those positions. You got a cost estimate?
I don't think we've got necessarily a cost estimate, a price tag to hang on that particular aspect of it, other than just being able to anecdotally say the training, the ongoing training needs, for example, for employers is pretty high. We do know that we have the price tag in there that was mentioned earlier of $86 million that is going into remedial education for high school graduates who go on to a post-secondary education, but have to keep taking classes in order to kind of get up to speed where they should be with a high school diploma in the first place. So that's one aspect of it right there. That's not necessarily an employer-specific cost, but I think it's kind of a cumulative cost.
Do you have any data on the wages for these 150,000 jobs? What kind of wages are these jobs providing?
No specifics that I could offer you right now, other than it's a wide range, really. As you might imagine, for when we're talking about 150,000 positions across all industries in Illinois, it's pretty varied. But as I think it was Rudy's point earlier about the educational attainment equals better pay, and the wages are certainly higher when you're better educated, and we have some figures in the report that relate directly to that. That we could, if you have any difficulty finding them at all, we can point them out to you. There's a chart, for example, on page 7 of the report that talks about earnings levels, employment levels, and level of education.
Yes, again, Sean's correct. It's a very wide range. However, and the range includes like a welder, as an example. I know in the aerospace industry, we're having a hard time getting welders. In Rockford, there's new classes being developed to try to train welders, and people say, well, what's the big deal? You just weld. There's a lot of skill that goes to it, and there's a lot of math that goes to it. There's a lot of things. You have to know the different materials. You have to be able to weld between titanium or stainless steel. It's completely different, and some are qualified with one thing and the other. We end up bringing people from out of state because the workers are not here. We're not training them fast enough. Also, software, as an example. Software, people can make $100,000 to $150,000 doing software, but not everybody has gone to the school to get the training. So what do? We go ahead and contract out to other parts of the world, and saying, well, we could do some of that software, but when there's a problem, it costs businesses money because now we have to fly people to those areas, whether it's Vietnam, India, China, or whatever, to go and get a better understanding of what they're doing wrong or right, versus having someone training someone right next to you and actually working. They see the end product and things. So it ranges, from welding to software to so many different areas, healthcare.
We see positions going unfilled that are everywhere from $35,000 to $100,000, depending on the kind of job. Something that I wanted to note that is exacerbating the issue of the skills gap is the labor force participation rate today is as low at low levels as it was in the late 70s. Fewer people are participating in the workforce, so you have a shrinking workforce already. You add the skills gap, and it makes the problem that much more impactful. So wanted to share that note.
So do you guys support any other kind of education funding reform? You talk about, wanting these high school kids to graduate. You got 1 in 6 dropping out. Do you guys support, SB1 or Bergman's bill, or just a general increase in education funding, for K-12 as well?
That's a fair question, and while we've looked at the SB1 as it's been developing over the last couple of years, different versions of it. One thing we wanted to make sure was that it preserved the funding stream for early childhood education as it is, because that's actually a fairly efficient and a good way of going about funding education for kids who are younger than 5. at the preschool level and the services for birth to 3. We haven't really taken a specific position on the bill as a whole at all. We're glad the discussion's going on because it's one that's been going on for a long time to ensure that funding is fair and adequate and so forth.
What about just increasing K through 12 in general?
We really haven't we haven't focused on that so much, Seth. We've kind of, what we've done is broken off and kind of focused our efforts on a few of the particular things that you'll see in the report that really, focus energy specifically on particular aspects of at early childhood and then at middle to high school level getting into college.
Well, one more question about, vocational school and all that. You talk about, 2 years of college or whatever to go get this, specialized training. How do you want those kids to get there if they can't afford it? Do you support 2 years of college to go there for free, or how do you want to get those kids there?
In general, as we said, we're supportive of efforts to help kids make sure that they get the kind of education levels that they're seeking at whatever level that they feel that they want and they need and that their careers are going to need. But that also kind of gets into, we haven't really gotten specifically into some of the policy areas that would have to do with college affordability, particularly, and that kind of thing. You could say we come together around the things that we've come together around so far, but it's a fair question. Thanks.
And to add to that, as we've seen the government increase and make college more affordable, what's happens is the cost of tuition has continued to increase. So educators are raising the cost of tuition as the government is trying to assist kids to go to school, and it's not making it more affordable necessarily.
So what do you think of the governor's proposed increase to higher education?
I do think the education system has to look at their own internal operations and operate as efficiently as they possibly can to reduce their costs and make education more affordable.
Yeah, most of our budget pronouncements, such as they are, have been very focused on the things that you've heard about today and that we've unpacked for you today in the report. Any other questions? We want to thank you very much for coming today. If you have any other questions, my colleague Tim Carpenter there in the front row or I can help you out. We'll be around for a few minutes if you have any other inquiries at all, and thanks for your time.
Are we getting an ARP?
You want to
Keep everybody.